The president bragged about his TV ratings during the coronavirus pandemic, suggested states were lying about how many ventilators they need, and blamed healthcare workers for the lack of masks. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. You know, we're all just trying to get through this quarantine period any way we can. For many, it means working from home while watching the kids. For others, it means taking up new hobbies. And for many essential workers, it means having to go to work without adequate pay, protections, or sick leave. And then for everyone else, there's, liquor. As you can see here, I have a bottle of scotch I've been working on all morning. I like to ease into it by just a little nip, just the littlest a nip into my coffee mug, and then I just sanitize my hands in that, and then I drink directly from the old bottle. Now, apparently, I'm not the only one, because one of President Trump's staunchest allies on Fox News, Jeanine Pirro, aka the Real Housewife of Westchester, seemed like she might have dipped into the sauce on Saturday night while filming her show from home. The show started late after what she called technical difficulties and got weirder from there.
Welcome back. It's good to be with you tonight, and we apologize for the technical difficulties. Welcome back to Justice. Just the other day, the president talked or was hoping about the possibility of reopening everything on Easter Sunday, and in a way where we could kind of come out of this quarantine, as loose as it may be, that we're involved in. And Lisa Booth, the Fox News contributor, is here to talk with us tonight about whether or not that's even a possibility. How are you, Lisa?
Wow, I understand having a sip to take the edge off, but she sounds like she's about to grab a microphone and ruin her daughter's wedding. DJ, turn off the electric slide. I have a few bombs to drop before the cake comes out. How are you now, Lisa? What were the technical difficulties? Did the labels get switched on your Ambien and Xanax and your water and grain alcohol? Someone tell Judge Jeanine to stay 6 feet away from the liquor cabinet. Look, I can't tell for sure if she was drunk or not, but that's definitely the face you make when you're trying to act like you're not drunk. You know, like you're in a conversation and you're not following a word the other person is saying, so you overcompensate by nodding and smiling like a lunatic and saying stuff like, oh yeah, totally, good point. Yeah, man, my thoughts exactly. I'm shocked she didn't do the rest of her show with a lampshade on her head singing karaoke from the top of her desk. Of course, at this point, to defend President Trump on national television, you have to be at least a little bit drunk. This morning, for example, his courageous healthcare workers were exposing themselves to danger and begging for supplies. The president was dialing in for his weekly Skype therapy session with the Fox and Friends and complaining about absolute nonsense.
I've gotten from fair people, a lot of accolades, and I don't want the accolades, but it's just in terms of a fact. But then you hear Nancy Pelosi, who's, somehow there's something wrong with the woman because she knows what we've done. And don't forget, she was playing the impeachment game, her game where she ended up looking like a fool. It just went on for years. I mean, if you think about it, that's all she did. She didn't do anything. She couldn't get bills passed. She's controlled by the radical left, by AOC +3. And, I have to say this, it's never pleasant, but my poll numbers are the highest they've ever been because of her. If you look at Russia lost 50 million people at World War II. 50 million. They were fighting along with us. They were our partner. And now we don't talk to Russia. We talk to Germany. I mean, look, it's fine. I want to talk to Germany. My father was born. Germany it's in my heritage.
He was definitely about to say his father was born in Germany, even though he was born in New York. The man doesn't even know where his father was born. He needs to see his own father's birth certificate. So it really wasn't that personal, Obama. Maybe it's because Trump himself wasn't actually born anywhere. He was just summoned by some teens in the woods playing with a Ouija board. You guys want to make some investments? Also, look at the three of them. They're captives in their own homes getting yelled at by a senile old man. It's like a cross between FaceTiming with your grandpa and a Saw movie. It's like an escape room where the theme is, Grandpa's been watching History Channel all day and now he wants to yell at you. Now, the coronavirus pandemic has brought much of the world to a halt, with hospitals overwhelmed and courageous healthcare workers on the front lines heroically exposing themselves to danger. There are now more than 700,000 cases globally, with roughly a third of the world's population under lockdown, or as Trump put it during his press conference on Sunday night,
it's up to 151 countries. So when we say our nation and the world, when you think, Think of it, 151 countries. Somebody said to me today that wasn't in this particular world, they didn't know that we had that many countries.
151 countries. Thanks for the fun fact, President Kid from Jerry Maguire. There are some important developments I want to share with you, but first, did you know the human head weighs 8 pounds? Because mine weighs 50. Also, it was definitely that you didn't know we had that many countries. Or knowing the Trump administration, it was the deputy secretary of knowing how many countries there are. I thought there were only a few: America, Mexico, Europe, Canada, China, Chinatown, Chipotle, Xanadu, and
The United States.
Also, it's an important detail that it's in 151 countries, but Trump always immediately blows it by focusing on the unimportant part that people already know. COVID-19 continues to spread. And you know, the 19 is for the year it's discovered, not the age it was. I knew that, but when I told someone, they made a face like, what? So that's just a fun piece of bar trivia the next time you go out drinking. Did someone say drinking? Real John Leguizamo here, doing multiple voices at the same time. So virtually the entire world has been transformed by this pandemic. In fact, in Italy, things are so bad, mayors have had to resort to drastic measures to keep people from going outside.
In Italy, strict government restrictions designed to stop the spread of the coronavirus have not stopped people from heading outside. Tens of thousands have been reported for breaking the restrictions in a nation that's seen more coronavirus deaths than anywhere in the world. And this is prompting outraged officials to use social media to vent their frustrations.
Ping pong is not allowed. Go home and play on the PlayStation. You cannot stay here. Don't look at me like that. You should be respectful. There is a decree. I am the mayor of this city, and as the mayor of this city, I will make everyone respect this decree. Go home now.
Hundreds of students will be graduating soon. I hear that some want to host a party. We will send the police, and we will send them with flamethrowers.
Of course, the only thing scarier than a flamethrower is an angry Italian mayor. Italians are great at social distancing because you have to stand 6 feet away during a normal conversation to avoid getting hit with the hand gestures. Because if they're talking, their hands are flying, and it doesn't matter what they're talking about. You know what I like? I like a nice cup of coffee on a balcony. You get it. Italy's experience has been harrowing, and the fear is that it's a preview of what's about to happen here. And this is important to remember. Just because you can't personally witness it doesn't mean it's not happening. Here's how one healthcare professional put it.
What would the zombie apocalypse be like if we only had verbal descriptions of zombies, but could never show them?
That's a chilling description of what's going on, and also a reminder that it's hard to describe zombies. You'd say they're pale, angry ghouls with their hair falling out, and they look like they've been decomposing underground for years. And most people would guess, oh, is that those guys? Those guys who work for the president? Healthcare professionals on the front lines are begging for life-saving supplies like masks and ventilators. In epicenters like Detroit, New York, and New Orleans, they're describing the situation as a tsunami, calling it apocalyptic and comparing it to a war zone. An ER doctor in Queens put it this way in an interview with the New York Times.
I don't have the support that I need and even just the materials that I need physically to take care of my patients. And it's America. And we're supposed to be a first world country.
It's harder to be a first world country than you think. Did you know there are 151 of them? At least? And yeah, we're supposed to be a first world country. Instead, our doctors can't get masks, our hospitals can't get ventilators, and our president can't get a suit that doesn't look like it was stolen from Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, that right there, that is what happens when you can't even tell the truth to your tailor. So how tall are you? 7 feet. No, it's true. Many people are saying it. So frontline healthcare workers are describing a dire situation and telling us they need supplies immediately, but don't worry, the president is laser focused on the crisis.
I'm a great friend and admirer of the Queen and the United Kingdom. It was reported that Harry and Meghan, who left the kingdom, would reside permanently in Canada. Now that they have left Canada for the U.S., however, the U.S. will not pay for their security protection. They must pay.
What the are you talking about? Harry and Meghan are moving to LA? Where are you getting your celebrity news during the pandemic? I know it's not People magazine because even People magazine is covering the coronavirus. Seriously, was anyone in America worried about this? Honestly, was there a single person out of 300 million people sitting there on Sunday muttering to themselves, we better not be paying for Harry and Meghan's security protection? That would be large-scale tragedy. Also, how does Trump even hear about this stuff? Is he surfing TMZ during his task force meetings with Dr. Fauci? Fauci, I'm going to cut you off real quick. Did you see that Kanye lied about his phone call with Taylor Swift? That is ice cold, Fauci. I mean, I was Team Kanye, but now I'm definitely Team Kanye. Fauci, I got you. I made you touch your face again. You're not better than me, Fauci. You're not. I'm just joking. You make me laugh. You're my best friend. So Trump fired off a random tweet about Harry and Meghan, and yet it's not even remotely the worst thing he tweeted this weekend, because he also bragged about the ratings for his press conferences during the pandemic. Because the ratings of my news conferences are so high, Bachelor finale Monday Night Football type numbers, according to the New York Times, the lamestream media is going crazy. And then later he tweeted, President Trump is a ratings hit. You're comparing your pandemic briefings to The Bachelor? Because at this point, I'd rather go to Peter's mom Barb for coronavirus updates. All I know is after she showed up 3 hours late to our meeting in Australia, Maddie needs to socially distance herself from my son. I don't watch The Bachelor, so I don't get that joke. Also, I'm not saying it to say I'm better than you. I mainlined Love is Blind in 2 nights. And guys, when this is over, we need to talk about Jessica, because she is a real Judge Janine. Also, people aren't tuning in because they all love you. They're tuning in because they're trapped inside and their only choices are watching you or digging through Netflix trying to find a British crime show they haven't seen yet. Honey, did we watch Inspector Pinderberry? Yeah, remember? The killer was the lorry driver and Pinderberry caught him burying a body in the Yorkshire moors. That's right. No one outsmarts Inspector Pinderberry. Also, we're only trapped inside watching you because you kept ignoring the crisis and pretending it would go away until it was too late. We're forced to stay inside and watch you because you screwed up. More people than ever are playing Scrabble right now, but it sure as hell isn't because Scrabble is fun. Monday Night Football could score huge ratings too if every week they released millions of large exotic wildcats onto the streets of major cities and forced everyone to stay inside. We can either stay inside and watch the Jaguars or go outside and get eaten by one. And then during his press conference on Sunday night, his experts were warning that we could see as many as 100,000 to 200,000 deaths from the pandemic. Trump decided it was a good time to double down and to brag about his ratings.
As the New York Times said, we have Monday Night Football type ratings. But even they said that the ratings are like Monday Night Football ratings, and that these are like Bachelor finale. That's their end. When the big deal happened, I have no idea what happened because I'm too busy working on this. Somebody will tell me what happened.
No, we won't. That's your punishment. You have to watch it yourself months after everyone else, when nobody wants to talk about it anymore. And at dinner parties, you'll say, did you guys see The Bachelor? And people will say, we don't want to talk about The Bachelor. And then you'll have to say, well, did you hear how many countries there are? I know, but do you know? Trump is bragging about TV ratings and his own disastrous response to the crisis, even after intelligence briefings and his own health secretary tried to warn him that it was serious. In fact, the Washington Post reported that Health Secretary Alex Azar had asked for $2 billion to buy respirator masks and other supplies for a depleted federal stockpile of emergency medical equipment. The $2 billion request was cut to $500 million, and the New York Times reported that after considering the $1 billion price tag for ventilators, the White House had second thoughts. So you couldn't spare a few billion for emergency medical supplies and ventilators as a deadly virus was spreading, but you had trillions lying around for a massive corporate tax cut a few years ago. You know what? Next time Trump wants to dole out trillions in tax cuts to corporations and the wealthy, we should get that Italian mayor over to light the bill on fire with his flamethrower. Be like a Quentin Tarantino movie. And now, after repeatedly ignoring the crisis, pitting the states against each other, and bragging about his TV ratings, Trump is actually suggesting that state officials and hospitals are either lying about what they need or possibly even stealing supplies. First, he said this.
New York is a bigger deal, but it's going to go also. But I have a feeling that a lot of the numbers that are being said in some areas are just bigger than they're going to be. I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators. You know, you go into major hospitals sometimes, they'll have 2 ventilators, and now all of a sudden they're saying, can we order 30,000 ventilators? And, you know, they'd say, like Governor Cuomo and others, that say we want, 30,000 of them. 30,000. Think of this. You know, you go to hospitals, they'll have 1 in a hospital. And now all of a sudden everybody's asking for these vast numbers.
What do you mean all of a sudden? Yes, all of a sudden there's a pandemic, which means all of a sudden a bunch of people need ventilators. Pandemics aren't weddings. They don't send you a save the date card. Although based on how you ignored repeating warnings that this was a possibility, you'd probably throw that in the trash too. I mean, have you not been paying attention to any of the news besides your own ratings and what Harry and Meghan are up to? Somebody please, for the love of God, squeeze some information about ventilators into the celebrity quotes section of Us Weekly. Nick Jonas says of his marriage to Priyanka Chopra, she's such a breath of fresh air. And speaking of fresh air, New York needs 40,000 life-saving ventilators because of the exponential growth of an incredibly infectious disease. But Trump's grotesque conspiracy theories about the urgent lack of medical supplies didn't stop there. On Sunday night, he implied something fishy was also going on with the lack of masks in New York City hospitals, implying that heroic medical professionals who are literally putting their lives at risk might be hoarding or stealing the masks.
They've been delivering for years 10 to 20,000 masks. Okay, it's a New York hospital, it's packed all the time. How do you go from 10 to 20 to 300,000? 10 to 20,000 masks to 300,000, even though this is different. Something's going on, and you ought to look into it as reporters. Where are the masks going? Are they going out the back door? I would like them to check that, because I hear stories like that all the time. You know, we're delivering millions and millions of different products, and all we do is hear that, can you get some more? So I think people should check that, because there's something going on. I don't think it's hoarding. I think it's maybe worse than hoarding.
I'm not wearing a mask, but if I did, I would remove it to make sure you could hear me clearly when I say off. Trump thinks they might be stealing masks because he would definitely steal masks. Trump is so deeply and completely corrupt, he can't even imagine someone having a legitimate motivation. I'm surprised he hasn't opened a press conference saying, bad news, ventilators went missing. Good news, you guys, we found a corresponding amount of Trumpolators, which are very affordable. Think about how grotesque this is. Healthcare professionals are courageously putting their lives on the line, and Trump is basically accusing them of stealing masks and lying about how many ventilators they need while bragging about his TV ratings. He's either a sociopath or he's been stealing from Jeanine Pirro's liquor cabinet, which would explain why he often slurs his words like a drunk.
10,000 known or suspected gang members advising lawmakers will not be tolerated.
We had a chance to avoid the fate we're currently suffering, and our president squandered it by ignoring the problem for weeks and then pretending it would go away. Now healthcare professionals are putting themselves in danger and begging for supplies, and the president instead is accusing them of stealing while bragging about his TV ratings. When this is all over and the history of this moment is written, the kindest thing you'll be able to say about Trump is that
Ended up looking like a fool.
This has been A Closer Look. Hey, just a reminder, if you've been watching our Lockdown Closer Looks online, they're also airing on NBC as part of our full show again. So you can watch it there. Thank you so much. Stay safe, wash your hands. We love you.